This week, two of Japan's biggest food themes converge: beef and beverage innovation, and both are pointed squarely at overseas markets. Zipair is teaming up with Bic Camera to sell Wagyu to travelers on its Singapore and US routes. Meat giant Itoham is buying a New Zealand processor to rebuild its beef export supply chain. And Japan's beanless coffee race is heating up as global players move in. Let's get into it. Low-cost carrier Zipair is turning its cabins into a Wagyu sales channel, partnering with Bic Camera. The two announced the tie-up on June 19th. It targets Zipair's Singapore and US routes, selling Wagyu in 1 kilogram and 1.5 kilogram packs. Here's the clever part. This takes the Wagyu purchases that inbound tourists already make in Japan and extends them right onto the plane, converting in-country tourist demand into a cross-border export channel. By bundling premium beef with international flights, Zipair reaches high-intent buyers at exactly the moment they're heading home. For exporters, this signals a new, lightweight distribution route for premium Japanese beef, one that piggybacks on travel rather than traditional retail or wholesale. That's beef reaching consumers through travel. And our next story is about rebuilding the beef supply chain from the production side. Japanese meat giant Itoham is buying New Zealand processor Greenlea to strengthen beef exports to the US and Europe. The deal, reported on June 19th, is valued at $460 million. The strategic aim is to expand beef exports to the United States and Europe. This is a structural move, not a marketing one. By acquiring a processor in New Zealand, Itoham is positioning production assets closer to its target export markets, rather than shipping everything out of Japan. That gives it more control over supply, cost, and access to the US and European beef trade. For the industry, this signals that major Japanese food companies are now reorganizing their high-value beef supply chains offshore, building the infrastructure abroad to serve English-speaking and European markets directly. From reshaping where beef is processed, we turn to reinventing what's in the cup, Japan's next-generation drinks. The beanless coffee race is heating up in Japan, and even Coca-Cola is wading in. In a story dated June 19th, Asahi's alternative black coffee is set at a 430 milliliter size, with a suggested retail price of 227 yen. The driver here is supply risk. With coffee bean prices and availability under pressure globally, Japanese beverage makers are developing alternatives that don't depend on beans at all. The fact that both domestic giants like Asahi and global players like Coca-Cola are entering tells you this isn't a novelty. It's a hedge against a structural commodity problem. For the beverage industry, this signals that Japan is positioning beanless coffee as a serious next-generation category, with clear potential to travel to English-speaking markets already hungry for functional and alternative drinks. Put these three stories together, and one pattern stands out. Japan's food industry is engineering new pathways to overseas demand, each at a different point in the chain. Zipair builds a new sales channel through travel. Itoham builds production infrastructure abroad, and Asahi builds an entirely new product category to get ahead of supply risk. The overarching trend is infrastructure thinking. These aren't one-off product launches. They're investments in channels, supply chains, and categories designed to serve global markets over the long term. For businesses watching this space, the message is that Japanese food competition is shifting upstream. The advantage increasingly belongs to whoever controls the route to market, not just the product on the shelf. For the cultural story behind this week's market moves, head to Waden, link in the description. See you next Monday.